Hi, this is AJ Kennedy, and welcome to the Movie Health Podcast, a conversational show about movies for mental health. In each episode, we'll interview healthcare professionals about their favourite movie and tips for mental health, and see where it takes us. In episode 4, Catherine Gestre is hosting and talking with Sil Jin. I hope you enjoy it. See you at the movies.
In episode 4, we talk with Sil Jin from M.A.D Therapy, co-founder, music therapist, M.A.D. Sil is a registered music therapist, a classical pianist, and an aspiring dilettante to all artistic opportunities in life. Sil works with people from all walks of life. She has worked in various settings, including complex trauma, mental health, autism, neurodiversity, aging and dementia, cancer care, palliative care, and end-of-life care. Now Sil is in private practice with 2 other creative arts therapists, working with people who knock on their doors seeking to work with creative and M.A.D therapists. M.A.D's approach is mainly psychotherapeutic and somatic, valuing what goes on in the body, in the here and now, and in the unconscious beyond time and space. Welcome, Sil.
Hello.
Hi.
For that intro.
Thank you. I would love to know, what is your favorite movie?
So I have so many, but the one that I am dying to talk about today is Arrival by Denis Villeneuve.
Yes, it's really interesting because it's one of my favorite movies as well. So I think we could talk a lot about it. I guess okay, if you want to do like a little, just like a background about what it is about and what you love about it, I guess.
The movie, just the storyline is about the arrival of aliens on Earth, and a lot of things happen worldwide about these aliens, but the story follows the journey of a linguist and a theoretical physicist alongside the linguist. And it's the journey to kind of like learning how to communicate and how to connect with this aliens.
Yes, definitely. And I think Amy Adams, who plays Louise, the linguist, she did such an amazing job. And I guess, Jeremy Renner as a theoretical physicist. I think the chemistry that they had was really great. Yeah. What would you say touched you the most about the movie?
I think, like I think most of my favorite movies are my favorites because of the way it made me to feel. And this film, like the feelings that I had when I watched, and I obviously rewatched the film again recently, and it was the same feeling. It's that feeling of just being in awe of this, the other, this alien creature, something we don't know, something we have never seen or heard before. And, like it's just the feeling of being terrified, but also kind of feeling a lot of beauty from it, from that experience. So, yeah, I think for me, like it's that, the feeling of and like the film obviously just not just the thematic materials, but it's the, the music being used, the acting, the cinematography, everything, all the visuals and all these aspects kind of, induce that feeling of like, whoa, I'm like, I feel so comfortable. I feel so terrified. I don't know, like that looks weird, but like, I love it. Yeah. So that's what really spoke to me the most.
Definitely. Everything you said, I really resonate with because I recently watched it again and like I always have the same reaction to it. I cry like a baby at the end. There's something about it. I love how you say the word awe. Like it's definitely like awe and like a sense of wonder. Like while we watch it, and like obviously we are curious about the alien life forms and exactly how they will communicate with it. I guess it's a very powerful film, isn't it? The thing that I noticed about Denis Villeneuve, hopefully I'm saying his name right. I don't know if you've watched his other movies, Dune, Blade Runner 2049, Prisoners. I don't know if you've seen his other films.
Sicario.
Sicario.
Prisoners. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he does a really good job of like portraying very dark kind of themes of humanity, but doing it in such a way that it becomes so intimate. And I feel like he did that so well in this story, where it was such a like big storyline, but then we kind of was encapsulated in like the way that Louise and Ian, I guess, communicated with each other, and how they tried to work through, the task that they had, to interpret the aliens' language. But yeah, in terms of like themes, what would you say would be some key themes that you got from the film?
Really, they full on, touch on all the big themes in life. So like something very existential, something very philosophical. And obviously I think that whole thematic material is borrowed from the original short novel by Ted Chiang, I think. From the top of my head, I think just that whole perception of reality and how that can be different, and how that can be reflected in the language that we choose to speak in.
Yes.
So that was a big thing for me, as well as just that. How should I even call it? Like just that circular perception of life or time.
Oh, yes,
That
that's
was
so true.
big. And so many little like aspects and little details in the movie that explores that too. Like it's definitely in the score. It's definitely in like, I don't know, like even Louise's daughter's name, like Hannah, which is a
Yes,
palindrome.
that's
So
right.
I love that kind of like new ways of just being and living, because we don't live that way. We live in a very linear way. We're bound by time.
Yes.
But it does try to open that up a little bit and explore that. And I really, really like that theme. And of course, another theme I think is like a secondary theme from the big, the time theme, that's about determinism. Do I still go ahead even if I know what's going to happen?
Oh
And
my God. Yeah.
how does that happen? We don't know. But like just that woman's choice of just going and accepting and loving her fate, and like even if she knows that what's going to happen, she just accepts it and embraces it, and still gives birth to a daughter who she knows that's going to die very like in a very painful process. So yeah, that was another big thing, because I think it's kind of reflected in our life as well. Some things are a little bit determined, some things are not completely chaotic, but I think
Yes.
it's nice to kind of like watch that.
Definitely. Like from what you were saying, I actually wrote it down, that quote, because it's so powerful. When she says, despite knowing the journey and where it leads, I embrace it and welcome every moment of it. Like, I think that's what I guess, elicits a really emotional response from viewers. I know it does for me, because it's like, wow, like you would actually like be so vulnerable and choose to be human and fully alive and experience it, even though you know what the outcome will be. And it was, yeah. And I mean, it was just so like my mind was blown. Like I still remember the first time I watched it, and then we realized the huge twist at the end, and it was like, oh my God, that's incredible. And then you kind of think, oh, like, would you do the same? Like if you were in her position, like, do you think that you would go through the same pain? Would you choose that for yourself? And yeah, I think that was just that was standout for the film for me anyway. And I wanted to know as well, like as a music therapist, I know you mentioned the music, but is there anything in particular about the soundtrack that that really got to you, or like really resonated with you?
I think this soundtrack is one of the best.
Mm. Yeah, of any film. Yeah.
It win it. Like I don't think it won Oscar that year. Like some other film won it, but like incredible score. And like just so the credit goes to Johan Johansson, who actually died a couple of years ago, but he worked with Denis Villeneuve for a couple of films too. I think he did Sicario and Prisoners. Yeah. And also recently, what was the other film? the theory of everything, which is another kind
Oh,
of like,
really? Oh, wow. That's an amazing film. Just, yeah, wow. The score's amazing there too. Mm.
oh, beautiful. Um, my there's so much to talk about the music, but I'll just like say my highlights. The film itself is a palindrome as well. The first, the beginning
Mm.
and the end is it's the same, and it's the same soundtrack, which is like the only track that's not by Johann.
Right,
It's a
right.
very kind of famous uh, piece of music by Max Richter. I forgot the name of this track. On the nature of daylight or something. It's like very like
Okay.
there's a lot of strings and it's
Yeah.
super emotional. Probably
Mhm.
one of the reasons why it was so like like tear inducing, because it's
Yes.
And then Amy Adams narrates over that and
Mhm.
talks to her daughter. Um, and yeah, just that playing in the beginning and little bit snippets of playing in the middle of the film, and then it finishes with that film, and it was just like structurally like so nice. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, it
It was
wraps up.
perfect. Yeah. Well, I didn't think of that it was a palindrome, but you're right.
Mm,
It's
mm,
very true.
mm,
Wow. Yeah.
mm,
I think like it makes the fact that Denis Villeneuve, I noticed that he makes very quite bleak films, but like very clever. Like he
mm.
really he knows what he's doing. The cinematography is also on another level, I think.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, like I find the music is quite like eerie and otherworldly, which I guess obviously is the way it should be with aliens.
Mm.
And you feel like it's so intriguing from the start to finish. Like you want to know what's going to happen. I don't know if you identified the most with Louise. I know for me, like her bravery and just like her unconventional way of doing things, like even just like taking off, all the like all the what do you call it? Their attire and just like
Oh
walking
yeah,
up
the
to the
hazmat
thing.
suit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And like just like no one else daring to do that. I just found that so inspiring and it was just very empowering. Did you identify with her character? Was there anything in particular that she did or said? Yeah, that really
In
moved
terms
you.
of like identification with like I think it was like kind of all the characters in the film, because it
Mm,
was like, to me it felt so universsul, and of
yes.
course there's going to be panic, of course there will be some
Hmm.
people trying to like sabotage, like those soldiers who
Totally. Yeah.
did a mutiny, and like just all different like faces and reactions of humans, and of Of course, yes, that's, like the story is focused on, Louise's, perspective,
Mm,
but like just, I really enjoyed kind of like watching the reactions of other
mhm.
people in the film as well, because that's like, of course, like that is all accepted, and that's all like kind of understandable how they act.
Yes. Yeah. It's a
And
part of human nature. Yeah.
yeah, and
Mm,
I really like, like that's why I love watching films, like to see how other people respond to situations that's different to mine.
mhm. Definitely.
And like just the theme being, like a huge change and almost like a death of the kind of like old ways of being. And that's a very kind of like existential threat to
Yes.
everybody in the
Mhm.
film. And that was like, oh, like I just want to watch that happen all the time. It's so fascinating.
For sure, for sure. I totally agree with that. And going back to your point about how it was so universal, I love how Louise said, like, what better way to force us to work together for once? Like, I
Mm,
remember that line. I was just like, yes, that's
mm,
right, that's right.
mm,
Because like so many countries came together and were trying to collaborate around what to do, and then obviously there was kind of like the worst of humanity and the best of humanity and everything in between. So
mm,
it was yeah, like on a micro and like on a macro level, like this
mm.
film is so powerful in many ways. Would you say that there was a standout scene for you, or like any particular dialogue or quotes that you've never forgotten, and it's just really memorable?
So many. I actually wrote them down as well when I was rewatching it.
So, yeah.
I, those conversations, like just the way they wrote characters and how they converse is like, oh, so good.
I know it was done so well, wasn't it? Really,
Mm.
really well.
So I wrote down two conversations that I really liked, and they're both like first encounters of different characters. The first one is the scene when and where Colonel Weber and Louis meet, and they talk about. I think you remember this as well. She asks the Colonel to ask the other linguist what the Sanskrit word for war is.
Yes, yeah.
And the Colonel goes to the other linguist and comes back to Louis to actually hire her instead, and saying, oh, he said, it's something in Sanskrit, and said it's argument. And then she goes, actually, she considers the context, and her interpretation of the word is desire for more cows.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh my God, this is like so, like there's so much going on in that like short conversation. So well done.
Yeah, definitely. It was it really shows that she looks between the lines kind of thing. Like she has a different kind of comprehension than what like maybe a literal like linguist would have. Love that scene too. Love it.
Yeah.
And I guess were there any other particular scenes that you absolutely loved?
When they go into the spacecraft for the first time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And just this entire like way of being is like thrown out the window for all the characters involved, because the gravity just changes.
That's right. Yeah.
How debilitating. And that moment I think was captured really beautifully. And it reminded me of the time, because I think before they go into the spacecraft, the Colonel kind of asks Louise, have you done scuba diving before?
Oh yeah.
And it was exactly like that. It reminded me of my first time going diving for the first time, and just the feeling of panic, and like just you have to breathe differently. You don't feel the gravity anymore. You have to move in a way to kind of navigate everything. I think all perception changes when you're diving, and it was portrayed just like that. And I really, it made me really kind of like identify with characters in that moment. Like, wow, like this is it.
Yeah, and how challenging it would have been for her. I mean, I guess for all of them to be in that new environment. I love how you said that. Yeah, just everything changed, like the perception, like the experience. Definitely. Yeah. What did you think of Abbott and Costello, the heptapods who they met? I love their names.
I love it. And they end up using it too. I think towards the end they started like referring themselves as those names.
Oh yes, they did. That's right.
The character design and just the sound, the way they move, everything was just like how like regal and glorious. Like really, I felt in awe with them. Yeah, just the way a little bit fear-inducing maybe because they look different, but just the way they portray them was like, whoa, like beautiful creatures.
Yes.
And much, much more evolved and much, much more advanced than us.
Yeah, definitely. But still having that that need obviously for communication and for connection. And that's something that Louise did so well, I guess, doing something out of the box and communicating with them in a different way. Love that. Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about in terms of this film?
Like just the title of the film, and like when they kind of go in to meet them for the first time, Louise was a bit confused, and she's like, what do we do now? Like, well, how do I be? Like, what do I do? And the Colonel says, well, they arrive. There's like nothing you can do about it.
Wow. Yeah, I can't remember that, but yeah, okay. That says it all, isn't it? It's kind of like we are going into the unknown, so we can't really predict anything.
And there's not much we can do about it. It's all about what's actually going to just arrive. There's no control over it, and that's like just life.
Yeah, it is life, isn't it? Yeah, we
Mm.
kind of just go with the flow of life. That's true. And I guess that's why you and I love this film so much, because it touches on so many things. And just as a recap, so you mentioned like existentialism, determinism, universal themes, and yeah, even like the movie itself is about the human condition, and there's a lot of metaphors around the unknown.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, we could talk so much about this film, but we'll probably leave it there if there's nothing else we wanted to talk about with
Sure.
that. But okay, so just going back, since we are talking about mental health generally, and we are both providing therapy, what would you say are your tips for mental health?
That's a big question.
It is a big question. Yeah.
I'll kind of think about it in the context of what we talked about today regarding the movie.
Yeah.
When I watched the film, I kind of saw the aliens as the figure of the other, the unknown, um, something that's out of our control, something new and different.
Mhm.
And I think the way Louise approached it was really, really healthy.
Yes.
She, of course, she embraced her fear. She embraced that something is out of her control.
Hmm.
She approached it with, I don't know, like she approached it very slowly
Yes.
and with consideration, with
Mhm.
open mind.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good approach of, anything that happens in our life that seems like the aliens. There's so many alien stuff, out in the world,
Mhm.
metaphorically. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think if we just take time and
Hmm.
if we just like approach it with open mind and with a lot of curiosity, I think we can make friends with the other. And, like when I say the other, it can be anything in life, really. It can be like something we are usually afraid of, or something we haven't done before, something
Mm.
that happened that was not in our plan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think just that having that relationship with the otherness,
Yeah.
I think would be really healthy to have rather than, I don't know, panicking and try to sabotage it all the time.
Yes. No, I love that. I love how you still tied the film in. And it's very true. And I think that's why like I really like Louise's character, because she did approach this otherness in such a thoughtful way,
Mm.
right? And I love how you said she did it slowly with consideration and with an open mind. Like that's actually such a great quote. And yet she came with like a compassionate curiosity as well. Um,
Mm.
and I think you're right. Like it is about just like opening ourselves up to experiencing life, like whatever events throw at us, or whatever fears we might have, but just like being open to it and embracing it.
Mm.
Love that. Um, sorry, yeah, were you gonna say something?
When you said compassionate curiosity, that's what therapy is. That's what we do.
Yes.
And also just wanted to talk about how like, there's a tendency of a lot of people who just want to like, and I get this, I do it myself as well. Like we just want things to be safe all the time
Mm-hmm.
because life, when we just look outside the world, like outside our comfort zone, everything looks chaotic and out of control and scary, and it doesn't make any sense. It's absurd. So we build a lot of safety, and that's what we do as therapists with our clients as well. Like the first thing
Yeah,
we would do is to build safety between that relationship, and
yeah,
that's just what
definitely.
humans do. But I
Mhm.
think I don't know, like there's like a balance that has to be kind of struck there as well. Like if we just like, like focus on building safety and routine and ritual, that makes a very productive human, I think.
Too
Good for like,
productive.
yeah, good for this capitalist society. But sometimes I don't know, like I was just thinking to myself the other day, maybe it's just like we should just break that daily life once in a while to feel alive.
Yeah, yeah. So some kind of adventure or like spontaneity and just
Yeah,
like taking a risk
yeah.
rather than like focusing so much on safety. That's very true. That's very
Mm,
true. And I think, in therapy when we might, or even in life when we have difficult conversations with people,
Definitely.
that is kind of like breaking away that safety. But you come from a foundation of safety, don't you? Because otherwise, like you wouldn't be able to like initiate a challenging conversation, whatever the content might be. But yeah, I really like your tips are actually very unconventional, and I love it.
Yeah.
They're very like out of the mold. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And I guess, was there anything else around like the therapy that you provide maybe, and like what you've experienced providing that therapy that you want to speak to around like mental health?
I think I can only kind of talk about the way I work because there are a lot of effective and amazing therapies out there that is kind of aiming at establishing safety, because
Yes.
trauma happens to everybody all the time, everywhere in the world. So that kind of safe establishing therapies have to happen first. We do need
100%.
to rebuild our nest first. Definitely, that's so important. That should be like, the foundation for everyone kind of recovering from bad events in life. But I think what I offer is, like, is a little bit after that. Like it's more like after building that kind of safety, which I think music therapy still does that a lot. Like we immediately can find home in music.
Mhm.
Some of us do, some of us don't. And I think what I do is sometimes, just, like experience something that's a little bit risky, but within the context of safety, of course. And trying something, that feels a bit daring and adventurous and a little bit out of comfort zone. And sometimes that's what, I don't know, like that's what creative work kind of allows you to do, I guess. Get out of where you are and get out there on the stage, or I don't know, like in your own headspace about expressing yourself, which can be really, really hard for traumatized people.
Yes. Yeah.
And reclaiming your voice back and singing out loud, even if you think you're, what's the phrase that I hear all the time? Even if I am tone deaf.
Ah, you get that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, who cares? Like, it's not important if you sing in the right pitch. It's important that you're singing.
Exactly. So like your therapy is very expressive and quite embodied, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, which I love. And I think that's the way of the future. I was actually speaking to a drama therapist yesterday. And we were both agreeing on that this is the way of the future. And I love how you're a music therapist and you work with an art therapist and a dance therapist. Like that is so
That's
cool.
right.
But yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to mention about music therapy or expressive arts therapies? Yeah.
About just the society's perception,
Yeah.
our cultural perception of what creative arts are and what their roles are.
Hmm.
I think that have to be challenged
Yeah.
constantly.
Hmm.
I come from a background where I was playing music very in a quite competitive manner. I did exams, I did auditions, and it was graded and it was judged, and it was I don't find it so wrong in that context because it was a very serious musical kind of industry. So I get it, but I think there should be much, much more, like, I don't know, there should be diversity of how we make music in life.
Yeah.
Like we have this like, and I can only speak it for like music, but I think it applies similarly to like, like visual art or like other performing arts and dance and drama, all the creative arts modalities. We are so kind of like stuck in this mindset that we can only do it if we are good at it.
Right. Yeah.
We can only do it if we can get something out of it, like money or a career.
Yeah.
Do we have to? Why can't we just like enjoy it? And why are so many people saying, oh, like I'm not an artist, or like, oh, like I'm not a musician, like I can't even sing in tune, like it's okay if you're not, right? And I
Yeah.
think a big part of the job that I do with especially adults is to get rid of that.
Mm.
Just do it
Yeah.
for you.
Taking the
Children do it.
risk, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Children do it all the time. They don't care.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and I guess children are so in the moment that they kind of
Mm.
don't care at all about like what other people are thinking or like how they might be judged or something. So we can definitely learn a lot from children. I imagine that when you work with children, you can see the difference. Yeah.
I sometimes I don't need to do the work. They do it themselves, and I am like a witness.
That's beautiful. Like they just do it just naturally, right,
Mhm.
from day to day. Yeah. While as adults, we can be so kind of stuck in our ways or afraid. I think there's a lot of fear as adults, which is unfortunate.
And
Mm.
I don't know, like I'm the same, and
Mm.
that's why I'm doing this job.
It's to release your own fears as well. Like, yeah,
Completely. I'm doing it
yeah.
ultimately so I know how to therapize myself with music, I guess.
No, that's great. It's great to admit that. Like, I think that's a really
Mm.
authentic thing. Um, I'm going back to the intro that I did for you, that you wrote, and I really love how you say that MAD's approach is psychotherapeutic and somatic in the here and now and in the unconscious beyond time and space. And it's so funny because I just realized how it's so relevant to the film that we just talked about. And that time is non-linear and it's all,
Mhm.
it's beyond all of that. That's
Mhm.
amazing. So thank you so much for your time today and discussing such an awesome film like Arrival, as well as talking about your insightful tips for mental health.
My pleasure.
Thank you.